walking along, and I'm thinking a lot about this idea of what makes you know adolescence and the teenage years unique. It doesn't need to be human in the midst of that, to be someone who's really trying to faithfully live out what it means to exist on this planet, in all the riches and fullness that can mean. Because the reality is that we can oftentimes, I think, substitute the fullness of life, the fullness of the ways in which God intended for us to live, in this world and with one another, and that we can oftentimes let those things slide for the sake of momentary, what would be the word? It's so beautiful here. Momentary satisfaction, we'll say. But the reality is that all of us exist, especially in middle school and high school, with this need for identity, for belonging, and for purpose. I think those are three things that researchers and a lot of books would say are three things that are just not unique, universal to all humans. That we all have this drive for something that helps us understand who we are, what makes us unique and special in this world, different from the person sitting next to us, different from our brothers and sisters or our parents or friends. But we're also looking for belonging. We're looking for a place to exist, a people to call our own, a people to say these are the people who know me, who know what I've been through, who know my struggles, and then for purpose, that we're all also looking for meaning. That there's got to be more to life than just going through the motions. And I think especially for middle school and high school, the unique challenge of that is that so much of that is coming alive internally, that what it means to be a teenager and an adolescent in that stage of life is all about exploring. Hi, how's it going? that stage of life is all about exploring, what am I doing with my life? The most annoying question I remember ever being asked in high school, especially sophomore, junior, senior year, was just so what are you going to do after high school? Or what are you doing this summer? And I think most people ask it with a genuine sincerity. They genuinely want to know and say so what are you excited about? What's going on? But at the same time, so much of adolescence, middle school, high school is out of control. Both internally, biologically, what is going on with the teenage body, male and female, as God just made us to uniquely come alive then, but also internally in the sense of as you come to know who you are and what makes you tick, naturally you want to find all right, so how do I use that? What is it? How do I use what it means to be Brendan, or whatever? What is my contribution to the world around me? And I think belonging, this morning I've just been dwelling on that word. Belonging is one of those things that is so important to anyone's development, whether they're development and just health and well-being. To know that there are people surrounding us, that there are people who care about us, that there are people who are going to be there when things are not good. Belonging ultimately answers the question of who can I trust? Who are the people who, when all of it falls apart, they're still going to be there, and they're still going to be consistent. And, we'd hope that would be our immediate family, and hopefully it is. But for a lot of people, it's not. For a lot of people, it's not your nuclear family that we find the most belonging. And in fact, oftentimes through the teenage years, we're we're naturally wired to push away from our family and from those closest to us and pursue our own independence and everything else, our identity and purpose. But ultimately, we still search out that belonging. We search out who are the people who are going to do that journey with us, in the unique ways. And so oftentimes that looks like ridiculous things, or it finds expression in the most like unhelpful ways. Like I remember in high school and junior high, I went through about every phase that you could. Went through the punk phase. I got super into rap for a while. Yeah, that was an interesting one. Metal, no country, thank God. And so many other like different stages, all in an attempt to find like, all right, who are my people? Where do I belong? And what's cool is that when we read Genesis, and the creation narratives, Adam and Eve, and the first 6 days in Genesis 1, and God says that it's not good for man to be alone. Talking about, in the context it was Adam, and I think Genesis 2. When God says it's not good for him to be alone, what God's really talking about isn't, the fact that people belong in relationships and should get married. What a lot of people actually think those texts are talking about is this biblical understanding of the fact that we as human beings are meant to be in community. We're meant to be with other people. We're meant to be in relationship with others. And something is wrong when we're not. Something's missing, and something is harmful to us if we live in that kind of state for too long. And so there's this biblical precedent for finding belonging in community, for finding the people who are our tribe. But in the kingdom of God, in Christianity, and in just this amazing thing with the creator of the universe that we have access to, we find a whole different kind of family. We find a whole different kind of belonging that has nothing to do with looks or the outward appearance or my interests. Do I like the same music or hobbies? Instead, what real belonging has to do with is just who we were made to be, whose we are. One of my friends used to say, or her parents used to say to her every day before she went to school, remember who you are and remember whose you are. And I think that if we learn to remind if we learn to remind ourselves of that, that was a big down tree. The need for the loneliness would begin to disappear. The fear would begin to disappear, because we'd realize we're all in this together. We're all in the same boat, heading in the same direction, trying to figure this out. And in the midst of all that, there's this God who created everything, who just loves us so deeply, that if we actually understood that, if we actually began to realize and recognize and see and feel God's presence around us the way I believe we can, and the way I get to experience when I come out on hikes like this, what we begin to experience is a whole new kind of life. And it all starts with this belonging. And it develops as we understand who we are, our own identity, and we begin to see through that our purpose, what we were made for, what our potential is, what God can do with our lives if we just give him the chance. Life's good. Life is so unique and unexpectedly good. Even when it's not. Even in the midst of heartache, we can still say it's good.